everyone, and welcome everyone to the Cayuga Center's Ask a Foster Parent live question and answer event. We'd like to thank you all for being here today. My name is Michelle Maluski, and I am a marketing specialist here at Cayuga Centers. I am from the upstate New York region.
Hi, I'm Ashley, AVP of Communications. I'm also out of our upstate New York office, and Michelle and I work closely together to reach and recruit great foster parents.
Thanks, Ashley. Today, we'll be sharing more about Cayuga Centers and the vital programs we offer, and more importantly, we'll hear directly from our foster parents about the incredible work that they do. Before we start, we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that our thoughts are with the hurricane victims in the southeastern portion of the United States. We'd like to especially thank our Florida team and our Florida foster parents who are taking time off from the recovery efforts to join us tonight. Now, let's hear more about foster care and the pressing need for foster parents.
The need for foster homes for teenagers is it's grown exponentially, and the needs of our foster teenagers are different than the needs of younger kids. But I think it's important that we don't forget that they are in need, and they do need homes, and they need care and support, and that is what we're here to do, and they are here who we're here to serve. Our foster parents, they are a special group of individuals, and it takes a special group of individuals who are willing and able to take in older kids, young adults who are still in need of supports and services and everything that we needed as we were growing up. We work really hard to make sure that we are training and supporting our foster parents so that they feel skilled and equipped to manage all of the demands, all of those ups and downs that comes with caring for teenagers. The number one priority our team has to support our teenagers with foster care is to make sure we are supporting our foster parents, because they are the ones who actually do that work day in and day out. They are the ones who show up every day. They are the ones who dig in and make that commitment.
Now that we've seen how important foster care is, let me introduce you to Cayuga Centers. If you're unfamiliar with Cayuga Centers, we were founded in 1852 as the Asylum for Destitute Children. From that small orphanage, we have grown into a national organization with 34 programs serving 8 states and 17,000 individuals annually. Across the agency, we serve families through many programs, including home and community-based treatment and support programs, service for individuals and intellectual and/or developmental disabilities, services for unaccompanied children, and foster care. We provide foster care for regions in upstate New York, New York City, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and South Florida. Now, back to Ashley to explain one of our most impactful programs, Treatment Family Foster Care.
Thanks, Michelle. Yes, I'm going to talk about our program, Treatment Family Foster Care. It's a specialized evidence-based program that focuses on serving children who need high levels of support due to trauma they have experienced. The program is unique in that it provides wraparound support for both the youth in care and foster parents. Our team provides 24/7 support, in-depth training, and we match youth with foster parents to make sure the home is a good fit. The ultimate goal for youth in foster care is to transition to a safe and nurturing home, whether that be returning to their biological family or pursuing adoption. So you might wonder, what are the requirements to become a foster parent? Well, the qualifications vary by region, but overall, you must be 21 years or older. You must have an extra room in your house for a youth. You must have a regular source of income. You must complete a background check for everyone in your home, and you must undergo initial and ongoing training. We know that there are some myths out there about who can and cannot be a foster parent, so we want to bust those right now by clarifying that yes, you can foster if you are a member of the LGBTQ community. If you are a renter, you can still foster. If you're a single, you can still foster. If you are retired, you can still foster. All that to say, you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect foster parent. Your unique background, knowledge, and skills might be exactly what a child needs. One of our most asked questions is, how long does it take to become a foster parent? Well, the length of foster parent training varies by region. However, depending on your situation and your location, it is possible to be certified in as little as 60 days. This all depends on how quickly you complete paperwork and your training. As part of the training, you'll build skills in CPR, first aid, and parenting techniques. Some of the certification requirements include background checks. You'll also complete a home study to ensure your home is safe for a child, and you'll participate in ongoing training as necessary. And through your certification process, Cayuga Centers is here to support you every step of the way. We know fostering is a journey, so we provide a dedicated team who's always available 24/7 to answer questions, offer guidance, and provide resources to meet your needs. The team includes skills trainer, case planner, clinician, licensor, and you, the foster parent. We truly do see foster parents as part of the team that supports the youth in care. As a foster parent, you'll have access to support groups where you can meet and get advice from fellow foster families. You'll have 24/7 on-call support. You'll have respite available for when you need a break, and you'll be provided monthly compensation. We're very excited to tell you more and hear from our amazing foster parents themselves who are on this call today. I will pass it over to Michelle, who will start our introductions.
Thank you, Ashley. Over 500 foster homes help us do the amazing work that we do. Let's hear some of their stories, and we're going to start with Lucretia. Lucretia has been a foster parent with us since 2013. So Lucretia, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. And I hear that you have a nonprofit that goes a little past what is required to be a foster parent.
Yes, hello, my name is Lucretia Ray. I currently am a foster parent in the state of Delaware. I have been fostering for about 13 years. Um, I've been with Cayuga. I wish I could say the exact amount of years, but since they opened in Delaware. I also, what brought me to being a foster parent is, unfortunately, I did have a childhood that I had to recover from. So I was aware of foster care at a young age. Um, and again, I do also have a nonprofit called carrywithpride.org, where I actually donate luggage to kids in foster care. Because unfortunately, when majority of them come to my home, they do come in garbage bags. And that's my little slogan: no more trash bags.
Lucretia, thank you very much for that. Next up, we're going to introduce you to Shelly and Paul, who are long-term foster parents for Cayuga Centers. They've been foster parents for 21 years overall and 11 years with Cayuga Centers. Shelly and Paul, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, we've been foster parents for 21 years. Paul and I have been married for 35. We have 6 kids of our own. We decided to become foster parents because the need was just so high. And we've had a total of 153 kids in our home.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Yes, thank you.
Now we're going to meet Linda and Mickey, who have been fostering with Cayuga Centers since 2022. Linda and Mickey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what led you to become a foster parent?
Um, we first wanted to do it just because, we've had such a community rally around us when we were children, that we wanted to give back. We really believe that it takes a village. So we want to be that village for the vulnerable children in our community. And then, once we started, we kind of just fell in love with Cayuga and all of the kids. So it definitely keeps us going.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, we're going to introduce you to Diane, who has been with us for a little bit over a year, or about a year now. Diane, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what led you to become a foster parent with Cayuga Centers?
Yes, my name is Diane Dandridge. I have one child who is 45 years old. He has 5 children, and I am a great grandmother. And it was just in my heart to foster. And they matched me really well with my foster child. He's 17 years old. So it's going really good.
Diane, thank you so much. And without any further ado, let's pop into our question and answer session. Let's start with our first question. What has been your favorite moment as a foster parent? Oh, Paul and Shelley?
That's a hard one because we've had so many good ones. I think I would have to say watching a kiddo go back home and then 4 years later come knocking on our door just to say thank you.
Mother and her both to thank us.
Yeah.
That she came to us. She was having a real hard time in school. 4 years later, when she came back, she was on honor roll, and they were just so happy, and the turnaround was just so great.
That's fantastic. Would anyone else like to answer the question?
I think for us, it's kind of seeing the kids. A lot of them come in very guarded. They have their defenses up to protect themselves. Yeah. So once we start seeing their real personality coming out and their excitement and them just wanting to be kids and them learning that they can trust us enough to be a kid with us and be vulnerable with us, I think that's the best part.
Lucretia or Diane, do you have anything to share?
I kind of am going to probably piggyback off a little bit off of Paul and Shelley in regards to that, because I have a couple of my kids that are in their 30s now. 2 of my boys come by every 2 weeks because they said the young ladies don't know how to cook, so I cook them meals. And one of my girls that I had when she was about 15, unfortunately, I did terminate our relationship during the time she was there. However, she comes to my house now for Christmas with her 2 daughters. I showed them the room their mom grew up in, things like that. So to know that what you did input in them did make a difference, because sometimes while we're doing the work, we don't realize it, but it does make a change and a difference.
Diane?
Yeah, same for me. Just to watch him grow, to watch his personality change day by day by day.
Okay. Actually, what most of you guys said kind of leads us into our next question from Gemma. Gemma wants to know, how does Cayuga Centers prioritize family reunification, and how do you as foster parents handle that, and how does Cayuga Centers help you? Feel free to answer one or all of them.
For myself, majority of my children, unfortunately, parents' rights are terminated. The ones that I do have. But the ones that I do work with the parents with Cayuga, I always look at them kind of as we're co-parenting. Because I am a single foster parent. So I look at them as my partner when it comes to that, because they are my middleman, even dealing with the state, things of that nature. So it makes it very personable. So even if I feel a certain way, or certain things like that, they kind of make the transition easy. And they're there with me every step of the way.
Linda, I kind of see you nodding along here. Do you have anything to add?
I would say that, Cayuga definitely is the middleman for us. They definitely make sure that us as foster parents, that we're respected by the bio families, and case management. And they also help us, navigate the feelings of, you do bond with these kids and you care about them. And we have sent a lot of our 16 home or to adopted families and stuff. So, they help ease the goodbyes for us. And also, their wraparound services really help the kids to readjust to wherever they're going to go next.
Shelley and Paul or Diane, would you like to answer this question, or we can move on?
No, our goal is to always reunite. And we make sure that when the kids first come in, we always try to talk to the parents, because typically there's a lot of anger. And just let them know, like, we're not against you, we're a team, like, and together we can do this. And so we always try to work as best as we can. And the amount of support from Cayuga Centers is phenomenal.
Diane, do you have anything to add?
Yes, they do definitely are the support for me. They're really supportive. My foster child doesn't have a relationship with his mother. He's very, very angry. He does have a relationship with his grandmother and his Aunt Mary. And I make sure that he gets to see them.
That's awesome. I would like to take a moment to point out here that we at Cayuga Centers, we definitely do view everyone as part of the team, not just our foster parents and the staff, but also bio parents. We want everyone involved. I'm going to move on to our next question. Is there anything that you wish you knew before starting your journey? This should be fun. Lucretia, you're already smiling.
Because I'm still 13 years in and I'm still learning. Don't take it personal. Don't take anything personal because it's not directed at you. That is the one thing I probably would say, because I think, when I first started my first child, it was more so like, I felt like I was being her savior, so I had this expectation, and even now when we talk about it, because she'll say, I could have been better. I said, so could I, but it took years and training and repeating, and okay, I'm finally getting it. So as much as they get therapy with Cayuga, so do I.
Again, I see Linda and Mickey nodding your heads. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. When we first started, it kind of felt like, all right, well, now we're in the deep. Are we going to sink or swim? Cayuga made sure that we didn't. And that's something that, we were always a little like, okay, well, if we have any questions, things like, is this something that's on a broader spectrum of being answered, or can we go to somebody, a specific designated person? But Cayuga as a team was there they're willing to answer every question, every step of the way, to be there for us. And, to have that support, we would have banked on it a little bit earlier than.
Yeah, I definitely had some of the savior too. I was, a little embarrassed to say, like, we went through the classes, everything like that. Professionally, I work with children. So it was a little embarrassing at times to be like, hey, I'm not exactly sure what we should be doing and if there's resources for this. But our team was like, no, you call us no matter what time, we will be there. You just call.
Shelley and Paul and Diane, anything to add?
Oops. I don't know. I would just say that, I guess, just pouring our hearts into it. I don't think when we started that we knew that 21 years later we would still be foster parents. But our hearts are in it.
And Diane?
Well, my parents were foster parents. They were foster parents for years once we moved out the house. So I had a lot of experience that way. But when they introduced me to my foster child, they really did a good job matching him because he's so much like my son. So it was just a good match.
So you felt a little bit of a bond right away.
Yeah. And it took me time. I took my time getting them to. I would have them on the weekends for a while. house. Oh wow. I would get him on the weekends, and yeah, he just grew on me.
That's great. I will move on to our next question. Did you reach a point where you almost did not move forward with fostering, and what made you do it? What gave you the courage to take that plunge?
Yes, our first placement, it was rough. It was really, really difficult. We struggled a lot to know, what avenues to take and like to kind of break down our own ego to get that help. And there were a lot of times that, they tell you in the classes about all of the people that come weekly to visit. And even that, couldn't really prepare us for it. And we had to like kind of grow a backbone a little bit and say like, okay, that's not going to work with our schedule. And a big people pleaser. So I was kind of like letting everyone run my schedule. So once Cayuga was like, no, like you could tell them that now's not a good time, or, this is a day we're available. So we really leaned on them to kind of be our pit bull for us. And then, it got a lot better once we started realizing that, we matter in the equation too.
Anybody else?
Yes, reading his bio. Is it his bio?
Wow.
Yeah, his files. I was going to change my mind, but meeting him in person, it was a big difference. So,
Lucretia, thoughts?
Um, I hate seeming repetitive sometimes, but I mean, I've had one, and it's probably within the last 2 years where I almost was like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I was like, I'm burnt out. Unfortunately, as the generations change, so do the children. And the issues over the years. So I think there was one time I was about to put my hat in, and out of nowhere, I don't know what happened, but like it was like a couple of my older kids reached out to me on Facebook, and I was telling them kind of what I was going through. They was like, "Mom, you need me to come over?" They was like, "You can't do that. You don't know what you did for me." Someone was only with me for the respite. And they're like, we kept connected. So that's what kind of pulled me back because I'm like, you do make a difference. You do make a difference. So it was them.
I'll do a quick show of hands here. Who has had former foster youth reach back out to them? Diane, you're off the hook because you're new. You still
You
have your first
will.
placement. All right, Shelly and Paul, I think this one is for you. Wow, so many kids. How do you prepare to welcome a child into your home? What do you do?
Listen.
I should be working for Metro Mattress, setting up beds and cribs and taking them down. Because at 3 a.m, there's nothing like putting bunk beds or cribs together. But it's been amazing, truly amazing. It really has been. We were the 911 call house for a while for our county where we live. So we would get calls at 2 a.m. from law enforcement, caseworkers, whatever might have happened. So it's been a journey, and I wouldn't change it for the world. We had 11 children for one whole year, and that I would do that again next week. It was amazing.
Sweet. Maybe not next week.
It was truly.
I think that also brings up a good question. How do you guys handle when you do need a break between placements? How do you know when you're ready to jump back in the ring?
Communication, honestly, like we're really good at that. And we just had a placement leave us that was with us for 2.5 years. So we know that our hearts were broke, and that's okay. We know we did what was needed to do. And that's a good sign, honestly. Sometimes as selfish as I can be and be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. We know that if they broke our hearts, then we did right.
Does anybody else have any comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next question from Jose. What advice would you give someone considering to be a foster parent, especially regarding challenges that aren't obvious at first? You guys can think about it for a minute. It's fine.
I mean, honestly, the only thing you can do is take it day by day. Um, and I want to say the biggest difference, because I've been with other foster agencies before Cayuga, because the biggest thing is also having a therapist in house. So when things do arise, you have family meetings together. When you don't know how, regardless of how trained we are and professional foster parents we are, we still need that assistance. So because with this specific agency, we have a therapist in house, we're able to utilize them. So when situations like that do occur, they can give us the tools to deal with the situations right then and there. We're never going to have the answers to everything.
Would anyone else like to answer? I do have a follow-up question to this, if no one has another answer. I'm just curious to know how many of you guys have utilized reaching out to a Cayuga Center staff member after a placement when you were kind of in that my hearts are broken moment, just to reach out and talk?
Favorites. I can't even tell you if you looked at my call log what it really looked like. So that's all I'm going to say. They are my favorites. Down to skill trainer, social worker, therapist, just whatever. They're on speed dial.
I would say that we've been really lucky that Cayuga has actually reached out to us. Like they've kind of known that things were going to be rough, and that we've had a placement for a long time, or we were very bonded to the placement, or we were a little nervous about where they were transitioning to. And Cayuga has really done great to kind of check in on us before we've had to reach out to them.
That's fantastic. The next question, I think we're going to have to bring a staff member on for this. Are Cayuga Center's foster care placements considered therapeutic foster homes? And if so, how do placements work according to each child's needs and a foster parent's abilities? I see Matt on here. Matt, take it away.
Absolutely. So the short answer to that question is yes. Our homes are therapeutic, and our trainings do an excellent job at preparing our families for complex trauma. Our ARC model, which stands for Attachment, Regulation, and Competency, addresses complex traumas. In addition, our NTDC, which is another training model that we use, is research-based and pulls together experience from foster parents who've also gone through therapeutic placements. So I believe we do an excellent job at training our foster parents for these behaviors. However, a great portion of the certification process is preparing for placement. And I can speak to Central New York, at least, that we have an incredible staff member who's been with us for a very long period of time, who specializes in, or she's our intake specialist. So she will have these conversations with you throughout the application process. And there's a number of different types of materials we use, survey type things to help break the ice, but really it's those conversations. And then on the other end, she'll be receiving the intakes, or excuse me, the referrals that come in, and she'll be holding meetings with where the child is placed beforehand, potentially the county, if it's a group home setting, and she'll do her very, very best to communicate sort of the expectations of the home, but also the expectations of the youth, and then also the expectations of the biological family and what can be determined for permanency, what the next steps are at that moment in time. So in short, the answer is yes, but we're here, all those amazing supports that you've heard, our incredible training staff, which we haven't highlighted yet, but another part of our amazing team help support our parents.
And I'll throw this out to the parents. Do you feel, I know you're never going to be 100% prepared, but do you feel that you were as prepared as you possibly could be when you began fostering with Cayuga Centers?
Yes.
Awesome. And that will lead us right into our next question from Crystal, which is thank you, Matt, sorry. What Cayuga Center support has helped you the most on your foster parent journey?
I can't say just one, all of them.
We appreciate that.
all of them. And I still call Stacy every now and then. And she was the first one that was with me.
Linda, I'm curious, you said your mom was a foster parent. How are the supports that Cayuga Centers offers than some of the ones you saw growing up with your mom as a foster parent?
Very different. I don't know if I can name the place that she got the kids from, but
Oh, you don't have to. No.
they would drop the kids off, and that would be it until it was time to pick them up again.
So do you feel a little bit better that you had a chance to go through the matching process in meeting your foster child?
Yes, yes, yes. I wouldn't have it no other way.
Linda, I saw you take yourself off mute. Do you want to answer?
Um, you know, from the countless supports that we have, clinician, life skills coach, our licensing specialist, everybody seems to care. There's not a deficiency. There's not levels to everybody cares, and it's universal between everybody. So when you see that level of care and they're willing to put that much resource into you, you feel supported in a way that in your worst times, where you're like, I can't do this anymore. They support you and bring you through that, and that's saved us on countless times. So
Yeah, and
we're thankful.
they're great to, like, if they don't have the answers, they will bump it up to whoever will have the answers. If somebody's in a meeting, they're like, I can't talk right now, but I can get you through to this
Yep.
person. They definitely make sure that no matter what, Adrian has sat with me in an ER room at 3 o'clock in the morning for one of our placements. Like, they are just there no matter what.
Yep.
I'll give Lucretia and Paul and Shelley a chance to answer.
It's definitely the team for us. No matter what happens, if we have a question or a concern, one of our children we picked up from the hospital had been in the hospital for multiple days, and Cayuga Center sat with him before we even knew he was there, before we even knew he was coming here, and then we went up to sit with him for another 24 hours before he was released to come to us. And the support, just unbelievable. Doesn't matter what time of day, what's going on, they'll drop what they're doing if there's a problem and come and help us out. It's we were with the county for 10 years, and I just heard her say they drop the child off, they come back to it's not the county's fault. I'm not bashing the county. They don't have the resources. They don't have enough people.
Their
And they have,
caseloads are so
yeah,
higher.
it's just so much harder. So Cayuga Centers is set up in the way to help the child, the foster parents, biological parents, put us all together. If there's a concern, we've never, ever had a problem and not had somebody come right out to us or on the phone with us to make sure it's taken care of. It's amazing. Like I said, 10 years with the county, amazing since we moved over.
And
Really.
Paul, thank you for bringing that up. And, we want to add that if we understand that there are a lot of agencies and organizations that are understaffed, and that's exactly why we are doing this, because there is such a need for foster parents. So thank you for bringing that up. Lucretia, do you have an answer?
For myself, I don't know how big the other Cayuga centers are in the other states, but I always feel like, you have chain stores and then you have a mom and pop store, and that's the personable person and they know everything about you. And that's how I feel about Cayuga.
That's fantastic to hear. And I just want to take a quick moment to add, for anyone who has joined us late, I just want to note that all of these foster parents who are joining us tonight are joining us from different regions. So that's why we're all talking about our different teams. I'm going to move on to Lizbeth's question. Lizbeth would like to know, what has been a challenging moment with a foster child and how do you solve it? And you feel free to take a moment to think about it.
Well, I know I have a challenging moment now. My foster child is 17 years old, his last year in school, and he wasn't happy with the school he had to go to when he moved in with me. So he's in a cyber school, which he's not doing. And I'm trying to find a way to solve it. I don't know how to solve it.
Stacy, can you talk? Stacy is our team person on from Diane's region. Stacy, can you talk about something that we've done in the past for a child who was kind of in this situation? I know you guys have a really cool story about a school that was set up in the office. We'll give Stacy a moment to hop on.
Sorry, absolutely. So we had a kiddo in the past who was expelled from his school. And while we were looking to transition him to another school, we didn't want him to miss out on the opportunity for education. Also, foster mom was working full time. And so, like for many people, school was a form of childcare for her. And so she wasn't able to take off of work. And so what we did is we set up a Cayuga Center school. And each staff member took on a different role. We had a principal, we had a superintendent, we had teachers, we had a really good time with it. We created some curriculum, and every morning we would pick him up like it was school. He would come into the office. We would all take turns teaching him something or engaging with him in some way. And then at the end of the day, we would take him home. And that lasted for about 2 weeks before we were able to transition him back into another school that was willing to accept him.
Wasn't there a graduation ceremony, if
Yes,
I'm recalling correctly?
We did have a graduation ceremony for him. We recorded it and made a big deal and sent it to foster mom and celebrated him like it was a real school. And then whenever there was a small issue at his new school, we reminded him, do you want to come back to Cayuga Center School? And he actually would have preferred to come back to our school.
I think this is a good time to bring up one of the biggest myths we encounter as an agency, which is you have to be a stay-at-home mom to be a foster parent. And I'm sure some of you know that that is just not the case, that we will make it work for you no matter if you work 0 hours a week or 40 hours a week. Does anybody else have a challenging moment they'd like to touch on?
For myself, one of my children was a runner. She'd run every 2 weeks, a week here, a week there, come back. So a couple of ways that we used to kind of solve it to reduce the running was one, I put Life 360 on their phones. It's mandatory, just in general, just so at least I know that you're okay until you decide that you want to come home. And at least text me once or twice to let me know that you're okay. And I kind of, when they do come home, I don't stress as much. So I'm not pounding on you because they're just doing it because this is what their norm is. So basically it's just kind of, even though they repeat it, as time goes on and they realize they're not going to constantly get in trouble, because a lot of times kids either stay past their curfew and they don't want to come back home because they're scared on what their consequences are. So you kind of lessen the consequences, and then she stayed home. After a while, she got tired, and she liked having her own room. You don't get that with other agencies. So
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lucretia. We just to let everyone know, we have about 20 minutes left and we have a ton of questions. So I'm going to keep it moving. Please feel free to stop me if you want to interject. But I'm going to ask you this one. Alyssa can't remember who said it, but she heard someone say, get the kids to trust you so they can be kids. How do you help kids learn to trust you? It has to be so scary.
That was me. It's definitely different for each kid. Some kids, you can just right away start playing with them, and that kind of breaks them out of their shell. Our most recent placement, it was completely different. We had to be make ourselves very small and very quiet, and just always reassuring them that we're here, but not in a bombarding way. You're always doing this tango and walking this line of wanting them to know we're here, we got you, but also letting them know, if you need your space, it's okay too. We try to give them, preferred items. So we'll talk to people before we get them about what they like. And just have some safe foods and safe things around, that toys, and things like that, just so that they can start realizing, like you can start playing with the toys and we'll kind of join in a little bit and then give them a little break. The teens, we've had some teens too. That was definitely a different ball game. They're a different breed. But we kind of just went at their pace, showed interest in the things that they had interest in. And then, they were like the biggest kids that we had, like the goofiest kids that we had were our teens.
I'm just curious for my knowledge, what is a safe food or a safe toy?
Like chicken nuggets, most kids like that. Pizza, we'll order a lot the first night. We have like a lot of snacks and different chips. A lot of kids like Takis.
Takis for sure.
And then just like, we'll have like some Mickey Mouse. It's definitely depending on the age that we're getting. But a lot of times like blocks and stuff like that, it gives us a way to kind of join in with them when they're playing, or just ask some questions or just make comments like, oh, that's really cool what you're building. And then they kind of start wanting to engage with us a little more.
I'm embarrassed to admit that that's pretty much my diet too. So I am going to move on for our next question, which is for Shelly and Paul. Shelly, Paul, you have fostered so many children. How do you handle saying goodbye? And everyone can answer this after Shelly and Paul, because I know that's a very popular question.
It's hard. It's very hard. But like I said before, if our hearts were broke, then I know what we did right.
Do everything you could do while you have them, while the courts allow you to have them, because you never know whether they're going to go home or what's going to happen. So we, try to take them to Florida every winter, Ocean City, Maryland in the summer.
Give them as many memories as you can.
Because you just never know. Tearing up just thinking about it.
Making a difference. Yep. That's all. It's important to make a difference.
Anybody else? Would you like to answer this question?
For me, they never say goodbye because I do teens. I'm always here and my door is always open. It doesn't matter. Whether they no longer fit in my household, we just weren't a good match, but I'm still here.
I just want to take a moment to say before I forgot, Shelly and Paul, you talk about travel a little bit, and I just want to note that for every region and sometimes every case, it's different, because we get a lot of questions about can we travel with our foster children, and I think it's safe to say it can be a case by case, region by region basis. Anybody? Okay. We have a question from Gemma. What were your experience with children, especially teenagers, before you started fostering, and how did your experiences help you, and what did you miss because of them? So again, feel free to answer one question, all questions.
For myself, when I started fostering, my son was 9 and I took a girl teenager. For that one, it was kind of easy. No, don't get me wrong. We had difficulties because she was very aggressive, but it was like an older sister to a situation happened outside. That's when I realized that was his sister, and she just treats him like that in the house. But outside, she's like, nobody mess with him. Again, I think it was just my past experiences just in life in general before I started fostering. I didn't really miss anything with, fostering teens, because again, like Paul and Shelly, like we still travel. Like I take at least 8 to 10 kids a year to Disney because I feel like it's the happiest place on earth. But yeah, nothing really. I mean, if we want to be honest, I mean, of course, with teens, sometimes, you put more cameras, I have to put some in the front and the back of the house, and just your security changes a little bit more with teens.
And I guess this brings up a good question if anyone wants to answer. How do you manage the relationships between your foster children and your bio children, for those of you who have bio children in the house?
Keep talking, guys. Go ahead, Shelly. Well, I see you guys.
They're all the same. Everybody's equal. Nobody's better than the next, and we're one family.
We work together at everything. Everybody team works, we work together, and
get the job done.
That's it.
Okay, we're going to take a question from Jose. How do you take care of yourself emotionally and avoid burnout while fostering? Oh no, Lucretia's laughing. She has the secret. She's going to let us all know.
No, I don't, because they told me, Krisha, you need to call respite. You need to, and I'm like, I'm not putting my kids in respite. If I don't know the foster parent personally, I will call my mom. I will call someone else, but I'm not sending my kid. I don't care, to a stranger's house. It's a process. It's a learned process. It's little things where maybe I'll go in my room at 9 o'clock. And they'll know I'm like, I'm in my room. The night is over. Things like that. Taking yourself out to dinner. Every situation is different, just depending on your child, and your living situation.
I guess this is a good point to note too, that a lot of the times when you become a foster parent, when you do background checks, every adult in your family who lives with you is going to get, or who may come in contact with the child on a regular basis, is going to get a background check. So Lucretia, to your point, when you have a moment like that, your support system is even a little bit greater. Okay, we have another question from Jose. How do you help foster children adjust to new routines and environments?
Definitely a lot of patience. We also do visual schedules for them, and we do a lot of like talking them through like what the steps are going to be and what to be expected for everything. I'm always, before we go anywhere, I'm stopping and saying like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the people we might see, and I just make sure that they know that if at any step of the way, like they're feeling uncomfortable, that they can come to either of us and we take breaks, and, just having a lot of patience and understanding that this is new to them.
When you have other children in your home too, that does help set the routine, whether it's a foster child or your biological child, because they're watching the tone of the house. So whoever or whatever other children are in there, they usually follow their lead. So it's easier when you have other children in the house.
Anybody else? All right, we have a question from Karina here, and I'm going to ask one of our staff members to hop on with this because I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. Karina wants to know, if a person doesn't speak English and they speak Spanish, can they be a foster mom? And I believe the answer is yes to a Spanish-speaking foster child, but you must know a little bit of English, correct, Matt? You're muted.
Yes, absolutely. And we will utilize translation services and utilize Spanish speaking staff as best we can. I know certain regions are better equipped than potentially our region in central New York, but we will absolutely do everything we can to support you.
And this is just a quick note that it can be more than Spanish speaking. We
Yes.
are noticing that there is a huge Creole population as well, in some other different languages. And that is a great need as well. So thank you, Matt, and thank you for Karina for that question. Next question is it hard to let go? I think we answered this, but I believe if anyone else has any other thoughts, feel free to put them here. Okay, Gladys would like to know, how do you guys manage behavioral issues when your child comes back from a family visit? And I think Gladys is saying from a biological family visit. And
we'll just remind them of the rules in our house, and it's okay. You have rules there, and there's rules here, and it's okay that things are different.
And I just want to let everyone know that this is a very important question, so feel free to be as vague as possible when you answer it, because I'm sure there have been some instances where that's happened to everyone.
For myself too, because I also raised my nephew, and I had that issue when he would go visit my sister. So we literally have to pull the whole school together, because if he would go back to school that Monday, it was showing his behavior. So I would let them know that Friday, listen, he's going to his mom's, when he comes back. So we know honestly would probably take between a day or two to adjust them back because they're so used to living that way. It's just like like Paula was saying, just reiterating, okay, this is you're back home now. This is where it's at. And after normally like a day or two, they'll get back to their regular behaviors.
Lucretia, you actually just brought up a great topic. So what Lucretia is talking about is kinship care. And in some cases, it can be known as fictive kin. It's when a family member or another member of the child's life takes them in after removal. Can you tell us a little bit how or if it's different from being a kinship caregiver than being a caregiver to a child you have not met before?
So I mean, honestly, it really wasn't different. I actually didn't do kinship. I just did guardianship.
Okay,
Because
sorry.
I did it because he was across state lines and I did not want agencies involved. So I just did guardianship. But then that's the funniest thing because he's actually the closest to all of my foster children because they were able to relate to him more than anything. And it really doesn't because we kind of do a meet and greet before most of the children come into our homes. And I always would bring my children with me to the meet and greets so that they can get a vibe for the child also to see if it was a good match for all of us. But no, there's really no difference.
And apologies for making that assumption. I know
It's okay.
I'm trying not to be too jargony or too alphabet soup here. Let's move on to our next question, which is how do you support foster children in maintaining their cultural identity and connections to their roots? Wow, this is a great question, Jose. Thank you so much. That one's got everybody thinking. Go ahead, Linda.
We definitely educate ourselves and try to educate the kids as much as possible, not just about their culture, but our culture, other people's cultures, making sure that they, still are connected to their culture by like bringing them around people, exposing them to books and, different media that depicts their culture. It's important that they have mirrors as much as they have windows looking into other people's lives. They also need mirrors reflecting them back. So that's something that's very important to us. And we take a lot of time. That's like the most important thing to me is that we make sure that they don't lose more of who they are just because they have to come into someone else's home.
Mute it, Melissa. We can't hear you.
Sorry, my bad. Does anybody else have this experience?
Myself, food is my love language. So that is the thing. We go to the grocery stores and whatever the food that they're used to, or we'll start trying to cook it. I'm like, okay, what is it? We'll get in the kitchen and try to make, those recipes or things that they had, growing up or from their culture.
What is a favorite recipe that you've learned from one of your foster children?
So now I know how to make sofrito from scratch.
What is that? Can you tell us?
So it's like what do you have? You have the garlic, the onions. It's like it's a seasoning, and then you put it in a blender, and you put it on anything and everything, and it just tastes amazing.
That sounds amazing.
And store-bought sofrito never tastes as good as it's made from scratch.
I know now.
Does anybody else have any favorite recipes or favorite foods they've discovered through their foster children?
McDonald's, Wendy's. That's all he want.
We have another question. Have you ever encountered a situation where your parenting values conflicted with the system's requirements, and how did you handle it? This is another great question.
Okay, me again. So for me, it's always been a struggle with education. Because as a foster parent, we don't have that much of an input on, most of our kids probably have IEPs, which is the individual development plans. So for what I personally have done is I actually became a surrogate, for educational surrogate for my children now. So anytime my kids come in the home, I am their educational surrogate parent. So I'm involved in every step of the way when it comes to their schooling.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we have just one or two questions left, and I'm going to end it by this. We have a bunch of questions in the chat about when the training is and how can we find out about our next class. I am going to ask everyone what their final thoughts are, and then we are going to put up some contact information for all of our recruiters in regions. So everyone who is on this and watching this who is interested about becoming a foster parent will be able to get you that information. But I guess we can end this because we're getting close to 7 o'clock here. If anyone has any last words of advice, or are there any questions or important facts you'd like to bring up that we may have missed? Oh, Paul, let me know.
I think it's really important that if you do become a foster parent, to make a list of questions when you get the phone call about a child that you might want to ask about. So, has the child ever been aggressive with pets because I have a dog or a cat? Has the child ever been aggressive with a younger child because I have a 1-year-old? Things of that nature, so that you know. The worst thing about a placement is if you have to have them removed because it's not a good match. So trying to find the best match. So ask the questions that you really want the answers to. Really is important.
I would say too, like if you have pure intentions, just go for it. Like it's takes a lot, and like I'm not trying to take away from like all the preparation you need to do, but everything's scary until you do it. I was very nervous. I had wanted to do it for years and I always talked myself out of it. I was extremely nervous until I reached out to Cayuga and I started talking to them. And then I was like, okay, maybe we got this. Mm-hmm. And then I got nervous again. But, you know, everything's scary until you do it. Like all new beginnings are scary. And then it's so worth it. And then the end is sad, but then you start over again. And, you know, just if you really have it in your heart, I think just go for it.
Diane, do you have any last thoughts?
If you're going to do it, go through Cayuga centers because they're the most support that you're ever going to have.
All right, Lucretia, let's see if you can top that.
I'm just going to say this is a thankless job. You're never going to see it during the time while you're there. But let's just be the change in the world. We all watch the news. We all see what's going on. We can't keep complaining and wondering where people's parents are or what the situation is. Be the change. You're gonna, even if it's one kid, we don't know what that kid is going to turn out to be. That one kid, it'll be a whole generational thing, transactional, and we just broke a curse. So let's be the change.
That was a great way to end it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for everyone for your participation and everything you've told us tonight. I just want to let everyone know that we are recording everybody's questions so we can answer them in future social media posts. We also have a blog called Cayuga Corner that we answer a lot of questions and issues that foster parents and bio parents have, a lot of social media posts. So keep on the lookout for that. And we're also going to send up a wrap-up email for anyone who's registered for this event.
And just going to hop in here, Michelle.
Oh, no, you're
fine. I just want to say thank you to all of you, every single one of you, for sharing your story tonight. It's so inspiring to everyone. I see so many comments coming through about how inspired everyone is, and I am as well. I've actually had the privilege of interviewing so many other of our foster parents as well, and I know you all are some of the strongest people I've ever met. So thank you so much for being here. And if this event inspired anyone to foster, I'm just going to pop up on the screen. Oh, I have to present first. Sorry. I thought I was. the contact information for each region, which is also in the chat. So if you were really inspired tonight to take the leap and begin fostering, we would love to hear from you. You can set up a one-on-one with anyone from our team. I'm also going to put this slide up. We have a system where you can set up a one-on-one session so you can talk directly to someone from your region and get all of your regional questions answered about fostering. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And I hope everyone has an amazing night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Thank you. Keep doing a good job, guys.
Thank
We're
you.
in it to win it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night.